Welcome back to The Heat. We are talking about Britain's decision last week to leave the European Union. Joining me now from Dublin is the former Irish Prime Minister, John Bruton. He is also a former EU ambassador to the United States. Thanks so much for joining us. You're perhaps uniquely placed to take the pulse of the European Union. How are European Union leaders feeling after this vote?
I think they're very disappointed because the European Union has been in existence for the last 70 years and we have a long number of countries who have joined or who want to join. And this is the first occasion that any country has chosen to leave. But the European Union works on the basis that a country is free to leave. But we're disappointed that they're leaving. And
what's the mood like in sort of entertaining all of the UK's desires to have all the economic benefits of trading with the richest trading bloc in the world, but none of the social or immigration problems that, of course, ignited this campaign?
Well, it's been made clear to the United Kingdom from the very beginning that freedom of movement of people went alongside freedom of movement of capital and money, that you couldn't have one without the other. And there's no way that the European Union is going to concede on that point.
There also must be a feeling of setting an example. The mood in the European Union is not great. And if someone leaves, you can't make the terms too easy on them because that could, of course, lead to other countries wanting to do the same, correct?
I wouldn't really look at it that way. Basically, we have what they call four freedoms in the European Union. Freedom of movement of people, of goods, and of services. And these go together. You can't really have one without the other. And it's basically to maintain that principle that the European Union is taking the stand that it is taking. It's not to make life particularly difficult for the United Kingdom, because the United Kingdom is a European country and we're going to be trading with it somehow or other anyway. We'd prefer to be trading with it on the basis where we are working with them to make joint rules that apply to all of us. But if they don't want to apply those rules, they're obviously going to lose some of the access that they would have to the European market if they did apply them. But it is going to involve substantial costs, this decision. Substantial costs for Britain, but also substantial costs for the rest of Europe, including, of course, particularly Ireland, which has more trade and interchange with Britain than any other European Union country does.
What costs do you see down the road?
Well, charging tariffs on British goods and services, Britain not being able to sell the financial services of London throughout the European Union. If, as a member of the European Union, services provided in London or from London to the rest of Europe have a sort of EU passport for those services to be availed of in the rest of the European Union, because we are satisfied about the rules being applied in the United Kingdom as a member of the European Union. But as soon as the United Kingdom leaves the European Union, then we don't recognise and won't be able to recognise the adequacy of UK rules. So they will not be able to sell their services in the rest of Europe. That'll be a major loss for London, an avoidable loss, a loss which was drawn to the attention of the British people before they voted, but they chose for other reasons to ignore that.
And what about the speed of this UK exit from Europe? They have to yet invoke Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty, which of course allows up for 2 years, although it's never been used before. Yet there seems to be this leadership vacuum in the UK, with both major parties looking like they may lose their leaders' elections. They're not in a hurry to invoke this. This could create instability, correct, in Europe for some time to come, and European leaders seem to want to get on with this.
Well, I think if the United Kingdom has to go, it doesn't join the European Economic Area, which is a ready-made thing they could join along with Norway and Iceland and a few other countries, which would and could be done relatively quickly. If they don't decide to do that, we're going to have perhaps 9 years or more of negotiation about an agreement between the UK.
You could see a decade nearly?
Union. So we could.
You could see a
Oh yes, absolutely.
Why?
If you look at the Canadian agreement as well, the Canadian agreement took 7 years to negotiate, and it hasn't even been ratified yet, because it has to be ratified in every country. If we have to have an agreement with Britain, that's going to take an awful lot longer than the Canadian agreement, because the number of subjects to be covered in an agreement between the United Kingdom and the European Union will be much more. And there will be a number of interests in every one of the other countries that will have to be taken care of. And just one of them a small country like Malta could be enough to stop the agreement going into effect at the end of the 9 or 10 years it will take to negotiate it. So I think the issue of whether they put in the Article 50 notice next month or 3 months from now or a longer period, that's small in terms of the uncertainty it generates than the uncertainty that has been generated by the original decision that the people took to leave.
So you predict a potential a decade of uncertainty, and of course there's constitutional uncertainty in the United Kingdom as well, with Scotland voting to remain, and very eager, it seems, from the Scottish National Party to stay in the European Union, or at least have what they have now in terms of trade.
Yes, indeed, and this points up the difference between the United Kingdom Union and the European Union. In the European Union, every one of the 27 countries would have to agree to any major decision like this. But in the United Kingdom of Great Britain, Northern Ireland, Scotland can be literally pulled out of the European Union against its wishes because there are more votes in England than there are in Scotland.
And let's talk about where you are, the island of Ireland. In Northern Ireland, which as part of the EU and an open border with the South, and of course the peace process has been largely successful over the past 10 years with tensions going down. Could you see potential problems with a Northern Ireland outside the EU and the island of Ireland, of course, the Irish Republic, staying in?
Very definitely, yes. I see major problems. Even if Britain were to join the European Economic Area with Norway, which is the minimal thing that they would have to do to comply with the referendum, that would require, because the European Economic Area doesn't cover agriculture, it would require tariffs to be applied to food ingredients going from Northern Ireland to the Republic, or from the Republic of Ireland to the North, which is happening every day, all the time. And if we have to apply European tariffs to those, would be immensely complex. But even more seriously, it will drag the two parts of Ireland apart, make the nationalist community in Northern Ireland feel more isolated.
Do you think there's any chance of a do-over in terms of the UK? There's been a lot of headlines about it. The further they go along in the negotiation process, there might be buyer's remorse, or you don't see that happening?
I think it's going to be very difficult because we're going into a leadership election in the Conservative Party, and I think the candidates are going to be vying to prove to the party membership, which is very Europhobic, which of them is the most in favour of leaving the European Union. So I don't see the Conservative Party changing its mind and saying, well, look, we should have a second referendum. Perhaps the Labour Party could elect a leader who would take that view. I don't think so. I certainly don't see anything happening before another general election, or perhaps even two general elections. And in a way, it's going to take a while for the full negative consequences of Britain's decision to leave the European Union to be felt by the man and woman in the street in Britain. And it's only when they fully see and feel for themselves the downsides of leaving the European Union that they would be even ready to change their mind.
You're a big pro-European. How big of a test is this for the Union, and will it survive?
Oh, the European Union will survive. The European Union has survived far greater challenges than this, such as the euro crisis. And we have a number of countries like Serbia and Montenegro who are applying to join. We're not short of members, so to speak. I do think we have work to do. We have work to do to make the European Union even more democratic. It is a democratic union. Every decision is made by people who are either elected or have been chosen by an elected body. But we can make it more democratic by, for instance, having the President of the European Commission elected directly by the people. We need to complete the European digital single market so that we maximise the efficiency gains for Europeans of being together. And we need to complete the banking union so as to underpin the euro. A lot of work has been done in the last 2 or 3 years, under the radar almost, to strengthen the euro. But there's still more work to be done. And we must get on with our work. We must not find ourselves focusing only on Britain. We have other issues that have to be dealt with, other countries that have problems with which they need Europe's help, such as Italy and Greece. We can't simply focus on one country.